And welcome once again to another episode of the HoriZone Roundtable. I am Bob McDonald. I'm on Twitter at Bob McDonald, and I'm also at CampusPressbox.com. And with me, as always, Jimmy Lemke.
Hello, everybody. I run PantherU.com, and I also record this podcast. And just a little slow rolling right now, just kind of taking it easy, enjoying my weekend. I hope everybody else is as well.
Jimmy, of course, on Twitter at PantherU as well. And Jimmy, of course, no week would be complete without a guest. So this week we have my one of my colleagues over at Campus Pressbox, Karic Jones.
How's it going, guys?
Hey, man. It's good to talk to you.
Yeah. And, of course, you can find us on fourlights.fm and wherever good podcasts are distributed. So go check us out as always. Of course, you can also click on the subscribe button and, save yourself the time. So this close, guys. We are close to the start of the season. So needless to say, we've got a bunch of teams who are warming up and doing some preseason exhibition type action. By and large, most of the teams are doing well, with the noted exception of Detroit, who lost to Wayne State. So we got to talk about that one, because this is I have kind of been on the fence on Detroit's transition, all things considered. I know they got Chris Jenkins back, but it seems like they lost a lot of firepower. And I know the games don't count, but, not a good look. So,
Yeah. Well, let's start off with there was no point guard in that game. Josh McFarley has been hurt. No one will say why he's hurt, and I'm not good enough friends with him to ask him. But he was not able to play, and apparently Aaron Foster Smith was coming off an injury. That's why he only played 9 minutes. And I guess Gerald Blackshear was not in BA's good graces. But regardless, when you play a walk-on 19 minutes, and he goes 0 for 3 from the floor and 0 for 2 shooting, that's not going to go well. And when you only got 2 players, I guess that's what happens. But if that's what happened against Wayne State, I'm kind of nervous to see what a very good Ferris State team does to them on Monday. They started a true freshman in Cole Long, who didn't have any other D1 offers, or he had one. I take that back, he had one. I don't know what's going on down there. I've not been around to ask, but there's a lot of kids on that team that I have an odd feeling probably shouldn't be on a D1 team right now.
That's something that happens with transition, by the way. Sometimes you just need bounties.
Yeah, that's something I get, and I was expecting, but I didn't expect it to be this bad. It's only an exhibition, so we're going to see. But it was not a good start at all, especially when you look at Wayne State's not very good for a D2 team. They're subpar, and they really took it to them.
It should be noted that, Wayne State is in town, and those games are always more important to the lower division team. Just like it's important for us, in playing the in-state high majors. A game for Detroit and Oakland is going to take more importance with, a game with Michigan State or Michigan than a game with Central Michigan is going to take, just because of what that is and what that means to, the program, what it would mean to win that game. So I just don't think that, it wouldn't be surprising to me to know, the Detroit players didn't take it as big of a game as, it was taken by the Wayne State guys. I know that not that long ago, less than 10 years ago, I want to say it was 2007 or 2008, our guys lost a game against UW Parkside, and it was embarrassing to lose the game. But I mean, you have to know that local team's going to it's going to be a lot more important to them to take it to you. So the chance of winning it is going to, it's going to happen. A lot high. It's going to be a lot higher than if you were playing some out of state low major or Division II team, just because they don't have that added intra-city introspection intra-city perspective that they do with other teams.
Trying things out, working out the kinks, blah, 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 blah. About this. So, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but to me it would be a matter of, it doesn't count for these teams, but at the same time, to me, I would think there would be a little bit of a pride thing involved in this. And not to mention the fact that work out the kinks thing, if you are in a situation like Detroit is where, again, as you mentioned, Karic, you have a walk-on who's playing a significant amount of minutes and not really producing all that much. It's not terribly, it seems to me a little bit foreboding for the rest of the season, especially when you're talking about a situation in Detroit where you transition there that's, going to be pretty tough, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. And then you throw on top of it that Matt Grant, one of your senior returners, can't play until December because he's ineligible because he picked a real major. It's really upsetting. And then I just realized, sitting here looking at it, the other guy who played 22 minutes at point guard only had one D1 offer, and that was from Detroit. So you essentially have two walk-ons taking all your time up top. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. The good news is Corey Allen's the real deal. Corey Allen played really, really well, and he's our 3-star guy out of Ypsilanti. So that was the happy part out of it.
Now, mind you, of course, not to downplay the significance of walk-ons. I will point to the example of a couple of the walk-ons I have on the Cleveland State side, like Daniel Levitt. I mean, that kid can shoot lights out, and somehow he's still a walk-on. But I understand, obviously, what you're saying, that this, the fact that you do see some bright spots in there, a little bit of a silver lining, but at the same time, it looks like the rain is definitely coming.
Yeah, it's not going to be a fun next 4 months.
Yeah. So,
transition, man. It's always going to be like that with transition.
Well, let me ask both of you this.
Even in the good transitions, it's still difficult.
Since we're looking at it, I'm looking at it from a standpoint because, Karic, obviously you follow Detroit. Jimmy, you follow Milwaukee, and you have two instances where the transition, obviously the transition was a little difficult. Obviously, Karic, in your case, the process of getting, everybody to finally get Bakari Alexander in as the head coach seemed like it took forever. And then Jimmy, obviously on your end, we've talked about that situation up there quite a bit in terms of how that whole transition went down. When you look at it from picking up where he left off, but also in a better situation coming in, but also down in Wright State where you have Scott Nagy coming in, but also a guy with probably a better situation. Where do you see it from the standpoint of, what you guys have as opposed to what others have, or don't have for that matter, or what process you guys had to go through as opposed to the other processes at some of the other schools that made changes this offseason?
Well, I wouldn't say that Wright State had the smoothest transition. They're lucky to get Scott Nagy. He's an excellent coach, and I don't expect that it'll take him too long to get it started. But you got to remember that also when he first took over at South Dakota State, when they were a division school, it took him a little bit of time. And when they went from Division 2 to Division 1, it took him a few years to get them going up to par with, once they were in Division 1. So I don't think that it's necessarily something that is, how would I say? I don't think Wright State's is necessarily the easiest transition. Now, obviously, we have a little bit of a special case as far as how odd ours has been, and Detroit is moving into a direction that they're only a couple of years removed from their last NCAA tournament appearance, but it's really a case by case thing. It's not. I don't think any of the situations are exactly like the others. We went through this transition to get a guy who, I'm completely supportive of, because I knew that the last guy was good enough to be the guy, and they have almost the same resume coming out of their previous job. Down at Valpo, Matt Lodich, he's a new coach, yeah, but he's also been there. he also is one of those guys down there. So, and he's been Bryce's guy for a while, and it's not like he's completely new to things. Bakari may be new to coaching, being a head coach for that program, but he is a Detroit guy. There's a big benefit to being to knowing the campus, knowing the people, knowing the fan base, than there is stepping in and completely doing something completely different, like Scott Nagy or up here with Lavelle Jordan. I don't expect any of these teams, including Valpo, to be running at the speed they were before. I do expect Valpo to be good. I don't expect Valpo to turn I don't expect Valpo to just turn the lights on and just start doing everything the way they were before. They did lose players. There is transition. It's not just, and those players that are still there have to get used to Matt Lodich not as an assistant coach but as their head coach. So it's going to be some transition time. I expect their non-conference season this year will probably not be as successful as it was last year, and that's not a negative thing. Bryce Drew is not going to be there forever. All coaches are never going to be where they are forever, so it takes a bit of time.
But he's obviously the exception and not the rule.
Yeah.
But, I'm actually.
I mean. Well, I think you have to be a special person to be willing to stick it out with a mid-major for as long as Greg Campy's been there. He was the coach there for a long time, and he really got comfortable, and he's found a home to stay forever, and that's great. And we all want that guy, but at the same time, most coaches are temporary. The people that are constant are not the athletic department employees and the university employees and the coaching staff. It's the fan base, and it's those players that graduate and become part of the alumni. Those are the people that make your program. So you have to get somebody. You have to make sure that as a coach, you're able to tap into those resources. You do the coaching thing, you do the recruiting thing, but it takes a bit of time to earn the trust of fans and alumni. And a guy, Matt Lodich has that trust. Bakari Alexander, is anybody at Detroit really, is anybody at Detroit really worried about what Bakari Alexander is going to be as a coach? I think that it's like here in Milwaukee, just on a better, on a closer level, in that they're willing to wait it out. I mean, Karic, would that be right that Detroit fans are really kind of willing to, give Bakari every chance he needs to become the coach that they hope he can be?
I would say for the most part, I personally am very critical of him, because I have to say, I am not at all impressed. In fact, I'm actually kind of disappointed on how he's done things so far. I was really excited to get away from Ray, and then the more and more I see this guy, the more and more I think, man, we just have a more charismatic version of Ray. So I'm very critical, but I think for the most part, the fan base is just excited to have him, it's great. A lot of the guys that are really big in our fan base were, just out of college or in their 30s or early 30s, late 20s when he was playing there, and they made those runs. So they had that connection with him. Obviously, losing to Wayne State, that pretty much tipped me in the category of, okay, you better start doing well fairly quick, because I'm going to be very critical the whole way through. Because I think it's irresponsible. Josh better have a very serious injury to be sitting out a exhibition game you lose. There's tons of things Bakari could have done already that would have made the transition less difficult. Do you try to get Brundage sixth year? Do you try to keep Paris bound and maybe baby him for a year? He'll go to the draft. You have a good player. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not Ian Callahan making those decisions, but I feel like even recruiting-wise, are the guys he signed the best he could do, or are they bodies that fit your system? Because, the 6 or the 7'1" German kid, yeah, he's 7'1", but everybody's saying he's not going to be able to participate or do anything worthwhile for a year. You got this Cole Long kid out of Nova Scotia that no one's ever heard of, ever. Of what he's going to do. I think he's got a great vision, but I just don't know what he's going to do short term. And I like you guys said, I don't think it's going to be fun.
And I keep forgetting to mention, I keep calling him Detroit. I keep forgetting it's Detroit Mercy. It's like officially Detroit Mercy now.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, we had this big thing about, we talked about it last week about it's Detroit Mercy with the logo and all that crap.
I didn't.
Oh, don't even get me started.
I don't need to get you started, Karic. You already wrote about it already in great detail, and I haven't stopped laughing. I'm sorry.
In great detail, which has gotten me death threats. Like, there are young alumni that are just drinking the Detroit Mercy Kool-Aid to the point of anyone who says anything that's not complimentary is like the devil. And I've tried very nicely to explain, I've spent more time with the administration of Detroit Mercy in meetings in the last year and a half than you have in your life, and I assure you none of them are angry. It's just ridiculous. Our fan base makes me laugh hysterically, because I am such an evil person anytime I say anything that's not complimentary of them.
Well,
criticism. It's kind of odd, like, people just expect, like, everything that is the decision of the university has to be, like, as fans, we need to just automatically accept and support and promote everything that they do, when obviously that shouldn't be the case. We're all of our own. We all can make decisions and support whatever side we want in any argument. So it's just odd that people get so bent out of shape when you don't agree with them on things.
I'm sorry, but if you have to resort to death threats, you're an idiot. Okay, I don't care who you are. I mean, seriously, that's just dumb. I mean, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? What microchip that popped in your head? Where where somebody brings something up that you don't agree with, and you got to be like, well, I'm gonna kill this guy. You got to be kidding me with that. That's some dumb stuff. It's freaking college athletics, people. It's not the end all be all of human existence. Okay, and no matter what you guys do, no matter what anybody thinks, and I should know. Prior to the Cavs winning the championship, anyway, I don't want to talk about it. But I'm still getting over Game 7 of the World Series, but that's good win.
Oh, what happened in the World Series? I didn't hear.
They deserve it. It was Yeah, you know what? What happened was there was a game that happened, Jimmy, and it went into extra innings, and another team won that wasn't the home team. So that's what happened. But but I want to bring up one other thing as well, and this is kind of is with regards to we bring up we brought up the exhibitions and everything. The one thing I also did want to bring up as well was the game that UIC's game. Speaking of Chicago, particular contest was Dikembe Dixson with 34 points. Now, once again, it is an exhibition, doesn't count, but man, I got to be honest with you, I don't want to play him this year. I think that UIC group is going to be pretty. I actually already think that the HoriZone League itself, from about spot number 3 to from spot to number 3 to about 10, is going to be basically all of these guys beating each other bloody. But man, I don't really want to. UIC with Dixon and Odiasi, they're going to be tough. I mean, they're going to be tough, especially for those schools that may not have that front court presence. I think those guys are going to be difference makers this year, big time.
Well, we knew seeing Dikembe Dixon play last year that he was an incredibly talented young player. And now that he's a year older and is filling more into the body, is only going to get better from here. So we kind of have to get used to it because we're going to see him for a couple of years more. And he's a great talent. So I'm going to enjoy watching him play as a UIC game, and
Steve,
he's a guy that you build a program around.
Brought him right with him.
And a lot of us don't have that player to grow a winning program around. A lot of us, if our best players are easily, are all seniors or they're not at that talent level, it's rare that you get that talent level in an underclassman, so it's a really, really good thing that he's there.
Dikembe obviously is one good example. Rob Edwards at Cleveland State is another good example. But you look at it and he's on a whole other level, and we've got 3 more. We've all got 3 more seasons of the guy. So, but the good news is also you look at that UIC team that we've been wondering when they were going to turn the corner, and I think this is going to be the season where they finally turn the corner, where they're not the perennial bottom half of the league this year. I really think they're going to be that dark horse to be in that top, not only to be in the top half, but I think they might, if depending on how things break, they might be in the conversation to take the league. I'm not saying they're the favorites. Obviously, that's obviously going to be Valpo, but I don't know. I mean, depending on how McLean's got them playing, it's definitely not. It's definitely not 2 years ago where they were staring at the rest of the league in last place, and they just weren't going anywhere. The different UIC team altogether, and I think that goes to I think that really speaks to what the type of things that Steve McLean has accomplished to kind of change the culture within that particular program, because that program was a wreck. That program was a complete wreck. And now we're talking about a team that could definitely compete, this year and definitely next year and the next year, next couple of years.
Yeah, they're going to be good. They have like 6 guys, I think. I'm pulling up one of the previews on them. They have 6 guys that are 6'8" or bigger that are all going to rotate in the rotation. I mean, that's a size you get to throw around. I feel like
that's amazing too, because you don't usually get that kind of size in a HoriZone League team, really. I mean, outside of Valpo, who's been able to get those guys of that size, by and large, being a guard-driven league, you don't generally see that kind of size, and they're able to do that, and they're able to pull. I think they're definitely going to. You get a couple of, you get that backcourt to gel along with that front court. Watch out.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, they're probably going to be running a 6'8" guy at the 2 because Dixon and Santos are both really 2 guys. And you look at what Jalen Hayes and Paris Bass were able to do last year. I mean, good luck to Dixon. Stop him now. I'm not ready. Who's going to be able to stop him?
Let's say, no, that's one. Yeah, absolutely. The only,
Peters?
Alec Peters. Maybe I don't know how what.
Jaleel Hogan until he gets taken out of the game with 3 fouls 5 minutes in. I mean,
that's going to be a thing. I mean, I think of the matchup that I think of that. And again, I think of that matchup, and I think of like Cleveland State that runs that 3 guard lineup, and your biggest player is DeMonte Flanagan, and that's not I don't that's a little intimidating to in terms of what my school looks like. I don't know about anybody else, man.
I mean, I think Chris Jenkins could probably keep up with him, but he's just going to get destroyed if he gets him one-on-one in the paint. So there's nobody on Detroit besides Hogan and Jenkins that can even think about defending him. I mean, there's no one on Detroit between those 2 and McFarley who can defend. So we saw that against Wayne State.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge problem for the league. And again, hats off to Steve McLean and UIC for righting the ship as quick. That seems like they have. I mean, because it looks like they really have. I mean, that's a big deal for them. Given where they were at this point in time last year, I mean, it took them nearly the entire season to win 1 game. And now we're having the conversation about how they're probably going to be much better this year. So that's seismic. That is absolutely a complete 180.
Well, and the other thing you got to look at with them is even when they were losing, they were still playing well. I remember when they came up to Detroit.
They were.
When they came up to Detroit in January, I mean, we were playing, going 2 for 3 on them, either hitting a 2 or 3 every time down, but they were matching us shot for shot. Bass would go down and score, and then their guy would go down and score, and Brundage would go down and score, and then one of their guards would come down and score. So they were able to keep up with teams. I mean, they didn't get a lot of wins, but they at least stayed competitive. It never got out of hand till the last 5-10 minutes. So it could be really interesting to see what they could do. That's for sure.
All right. Yeah. One last thing I did want to bring up as well is because obviously within the next week, with the games are going to count, and we're going to be in the non-conference schedule. When you look at it from that standpoint. When you look at from the non-conference stand, I think in terms of how these teams perform, I think that's going to be, because I think what we're going to need to see is, it is this in this non-conference schedule, because especially for a team like a Cleveland State, where you have a Kentucky and a Purdue who are top 25 teams, and of the competition within the league. How is it important in terms of the competition within the league? How is it important in terms of the competition within the league? How is it important in terms of the competition within the league? how is it important in terms of the competition within the league? How is it important how important is it for the rest for the entire the schools in the conference to do well? And how important is it for them to essentially outperform what is expected of them in their non-conference schedules?
Well, I think personally it's huge. Because it gives you that conference reputation, and especially against the Power 5 conferences, I think at least getting 1 or 2 wins would definitely help when it comes to selection time.
And one of the other, and that also speaks to kind of how we've talked about this multiple times. We talked about it last episode. We talked about it over the last last season of how the conference has started, has kind of trended downward in the last couple of seasons. I think that needs to, what they do in the non-conference this time around, in terms of how they absolutely crucial, in terms of how they turn around, how the relative underperformance of the conference in general. Does it happen? I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the $64,000 question.
I mean, outside of Valpo, is there really anybody that has any heavy hitters that they can actually beat? I mean, Detroit's got Florida State and Illinois. I wouldn't say one, Detroit's primed to beat them, and two, that either one of those are that good of a win. But I mean, do you really think you guys could knock off Kentucky? Or I mean, I don't know who Milwaukee or anybody like that.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, on the Cleveland State schedule, the 3 teams that I see that are probably not looking like wins are but I mean, Cleveland State has on occasion surprised many people before, so you never know. I mean, Kentucky is always tough though. I don't really, there would have to be a miracle of apocalyptic proportions for that to be a win for them.
Well, Tuesday, Bob. After Tuesday, anything can happen.
Well, if the apocalypse didn't happen with a Cubs Indians World Series, I think we're okay for the rest of the year. I'm just kind of throwing that out there. We didn't fall into the sea right before Game 1, so but yeah, I think in terms of I don't really see it. I mean, maybe standpoint of our Power 5 conferences, I don't know if that's in the cards. Getting a win from one of those Power 5 conferences, I don't know if that's in the cards, but I look at it more from a standpoint of those higher performing mid-majors just like us. Getting our shot against the best of those particular teams and kind of see what we go through from there. I don't know. I mean, that's the way I see it.
I don't know. I mean, we've got Memphis and we have DePaul, and if we lose to both of them, I just hope that they're not blowouts. That's what you really just want to avoid is avoid getting embarrassed. You don't want to have somebody to look at the bottom line and go, oh man, DePaul just kicked the crap out of that little team, because they're just going to think, well, that means DePaul is,
Yeah.
People don't think DePaul is any good, so if DePaul takes out Milwaukee by 35, that's just going to hurt Milwaukee in the eyes of whoever that is. You just don't want to be embarrassed. And at this point, what I want to do as much as possible is to not be a drag on everybody else. I don't want to be the reason that Valpo doesn't get in that large. You know what I mean? Like that's just, I don't want to be that team that drags down Valpo's RPI so much, or Oakland's RPI so much that whoever makes the NCAA tournament ends up a 15 or 16 seed because their difference is garbage. That's just what I don't want, is to end up getting screwing the guys that do make it. I want to be the guys that make it. I know that's probably going to be a few years at least. So I want to be a help to everybody else who's in our program, in our conference. I don't want to be the downside guy. I don't want to be like
Gotcha.
the drag. That's
one last thing that I did want to talk about, kind of close out the show, is that Mary Ellen Gillespe, the athletic director up at Green Bay, she is one of the finalists for the athletic director job at St. John's. Now, near as I can tell, given the athletic budgets of basically all the rest of the schools in this conference, honestly, nobody has done more with less than Green Bay. I mean, that's maybe I'm not looking at it correctly, but that's what I see. You have a
no, that's certainly true.
Yeah. I mean, you have a program
that's absolutely true.
You get Link Darner, and they're able to get back into the the HoriZone League tournament for the first time in 20 years. And just on the strength of those two programs, that really is something that really exemplifies the job that entire department has done under the leadership of Gillespe. So, with that said, if she does end up at St. John's, what is that going to end up doing to Green Bay in terms of who's going to take over? And
I don't think it's going to be as big. I don't think it's going to be as big of a drop as you think.
Okay.
And just because we know that Green Bay has already done this. Ken Butoff ran that department for a very long time. And he left for Northern Kentucky when Northern Kentucky was still in the A-Sun. And everybody is like really worried, how are they going to do without him? Well, she and that program, they did a pretty good job getting Link Darner. So, I mean, I don't know how much, she wasn't there for, she wasn't the athletic director getting the Crest Center built or getting any major upgrades in the Rush Center. She didn't get in the way of anything. I know that. I know that she's, kind of kept certain things going that Ken Butoff was doing. So it comes back to the real steward. The real program is your fans and alumni, and those people really backed up that program through things like the steak fry, and corporate sponsors like Bell and Health have been able to really back Green Bay. So what matters is you get somebody to come in and be a steward that isn't going to take things backwards. And I don't know who that is, obviously, but I'm sure that Green Bay, if they were to, if she were to leave, that Green Bay would just, it's next man up. It's always that way, because frankly, that's always how it's going to be, especially on our level. Athletic departments at high majors are always going to, keep an eye on who's the next guy, who's going to succeed Barry Alvarez at Wisconsin to be their AD. Who's going to step in there and go over that job? And that's something that's going to be on people's minds, whether you're talking about, somebody who's doing a great job or somebody who's maybe retiring or maybe somebody who's bad and you want to get out of there. You're always thinking about who's the man up. So I don't think I would expect Green Bay to just fall apart. I think that they'll be fine, and I think Mary Ellen Gillespe, if it's her destiny to get to St. John's, then I hope she gets it.
All right. Well, I think that'll about wrap it up. I think we lost Karic somewhere along the way.
No, I'm here. I don't know. I think Green Bay is the only show in town, and I think there's a lot of other shows in town up in New York by St. John's, and I don't necessarily know I would leave Green Bay to go to St. John's if it meant not being successful, but I don't know. It's hard to do things in St. John's.
Well, it's.
I don't think success is really much in the cards in St. John's in the way that we would think of success. So I don't know if I would be really worried about not being successful in the way that we would expect a program to be successful. I think St. John's is one of those where you just make the tournament, and that's relatively easy. So
yeah, I think so too.
I think she would do fine
at
there.
a certain point,
I wish them best of luck to her in getting that job, and
yeah, at a certain point in time, you always have
want to make sure
you do have at a certain point in time, when those don't grow on trees. I mean, if even if it is, and St. John's is, they're in a very good situation. I think that conference-wise, they're taking it in the right direction. They definitely need somebody to certainly would. So, in terms of how that whole thing works, again, who knows? We won't probably find out about it for a little while. But anyway, like I said, that should wrap it up for us. And thank you once again, Karic, for joining us. I presume this week we will be seeing some more of your stuff in Campus Pressbox. And if not, I'll just... Oh, awesome. Good, because if not, I was going to harass the hell out of you, but that's... Where's my stuff? No, you're fine. All right, and that's it. So next week, the season begins. So we'll